Hello everybody, and I thought I'd do another video on the planted tank success things that I've been talking about lately. Just giving some tips and pointers, some ideas to people who are wanting to get into planted tanks and aren't quite sure where to start. So this one I'm going to talk about is it's all about keeping things simple and keeping things easy. So we're going to talk about water type. It's all about trying to do a square peg in a square hole and not a square peg in a round hole. We're going to make this real easy on yourself and give yourself the best and easiest path to success that we can possibly do. And what that means I'm going to talk about is your water type. And believe it or not, water is way different. If we're keeping it easy and simple, we're just doing our tap water, and if we need to, the chlorinator. I mean, yes, there's obviously you can remineralize RO water and all that stuff, but we're talking about keeping it simple and easy. That's what I do. I keep all my tanks as simple and easy as I possibly can. That's how I have so many. I've done the high-tech stuff and all that before, but we're talking about keeping it easy. So the thing we want to talk about here is water differences, and then compatible, keeping everything compatible with each other, which we'll go a little bit more into other stuff as well. But most people have either hard water or soft water, and for you, that's what you have to decide. You have to figure that out. I think most people have water on the harder side. I know my water is really hard. So everything you see in my tanks, for the most part, is stuff that does good in hard water. Now there are easy things like bristlenose plecos that will do good in just about anything. And we're not just talking about the plants, we're talking about the critters too. So that's where research. Don't just go buying stuff that looks cool. You got to figure out first what water you have, and then research the plants and the critters that do good in the kind of water that you have. That is the main point of this. So for me, having hard water, all the plants you see that I keep will do good in hard water. Some may do good in all kinds of water just because they're super hardy plants and they just like their water wet. But same thing goes for the animals. But what you want to do is research. Like, I know in hard water you have this pilo moss. I've tried several different kinds of mosses, and other than like peacock moss, I have not had any success at all. But with pilo moss, just look at it. All my tanks, all these tanks, this is all pilo moss. I discovered something that did real good in my water and had success with, so I stuck with it, and I have my path to success is so much easier. Instead of trying to do all kinds of, well, I did try to do several different kinds of mosses in the beginning, and then I found this, and this moss does everything I need it to do for my aquascaping and breeding and just personal. I like it. So if you're interested in pile moss, you can get that at Mark Shelley Aquatics, my website. I'll have a link in the description. I'm not going to talk about too much because this video is to help people. But I have lots and lots of pile moss. And if you have hard water, chances are it's going to do good for you. So that's how one of the ways I've made my life so much easier is over the course of time I've talked about, or I've found, what does good in hard water, because that's the kind of water I have. Now, unfortunately, I'm not real experienced. I'm not experienced at all in keeping stuff for soft water, because I've always lived in places my whole life that have had hard water. I live in central Indiana. Indiana is famous for limestone, and it's all just limestone water, so everything is pretty hard. All the groundwater is super hard. So that's how I know all about hard water stuff. Check out these brand new baby super red longfin plecos. They're just now starting to lose their egg sacs, so I just now started putting in some food for them. But we'll get back to that. That's another hard water thing that's good is guppies. Guppies love hard water. They love the minerals. And as far as plants, obviously this pilomoss, anubias, Valsinaria is known to do good. All the different kinds of hygrophilias are known to do good. There's all kinds. Hygrophilia is super easy. You got the deformis, which is the water wisteria. I quit keeping that plant because it just overtook everything. It does too good in my water. I've cut back on the Ludwigia because it does real good in hard water, and it takes over everything, so I'm always trimming it back. The mermaid weed does good in hard water. My Neocaridina shrimp do good in hard water. So you see what I'm going after here. Hard water plants and critters, because hard water is what I have. And that is up to you to figure out what you have. This tank's still a little bit, still got a little bit of algae problem in this tank, but it's mainly under control. I'm doing pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. Another hard water plant are crypts, heavy root feeders, but they appreciate hard water. And I think I've said anubias. Look at that great big anubias. These are where in this tank here is where the long fin super red plecos come from. My first spawn of these guys, that was super exciting. My green jade shrimp. This is a 75-gallon tank. Even when I try to remove the moss, it does so good in here. It just latches back on. This moss does so good in my hard water. This is the same moss, and believe it or not, depending on the light conditions, this moss takes different conditions. In low light, it almost looks like a flame moss because it reaches for the light. When it has really low light, like in these tanks, it reaches for the lights. Guppies and shrimp and plecos are what I keep. Now, Neocaridina, they don't, I wouldn't necessarily call them hard water, but they do need some hardness in their water, and they are very adaptable and thrive. Guppies need hard water, and plecos, I think they're just tanks, and they just like I said, I think I said earlier, they just like their water wet. As far as the hardness and softness goes. But the main thing to remember here, guys, is ever since I added all these extra pleco caves in here, this tank is always cloudy, because sometimes they bury them, they abandon one, that is the top of a pleco cave that has been buried, and they dig them out. They go from one cave to another cave to another cave, burying one, unburying another, so this tank is in a constant state of cloudiness now. But back to my point. The main point of this video, guys, is keep what works, figure out what kind of water you got, and keep what goes in your water. Plants, shrimp, and then, I mean, it goes without saying, but I mean, you don't want to keep African cichlids in a planted tank. You gotta, because they're just gonna dig everything up and tear up plants. You don't want to get plant eaters. I've heard of people spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars in their great big new planted tanks, spend all this money on, and then they get silver dollars and eat everything up. Do your research. Some fish are going to eat plants. Some fish are going to dig and uproot everything. Don't do that to yourself. I mean, it sounds pretty simple, and it is simple. But when I get on Facebook and see all these problems people are having in these Facebook groups, it's just simple, easy, avoidable stuff that I know new people, they've never even thought of this. They never thought of hard water versus soft water. And you need to, that is one of the most important things you need to figure out. Now, when you're just keeping fish, most of today's fish that are captive bred, they are adaptable. So a lot of people aren't thinking about that kind of stuff. Look at the eggs on that mama. She is loaded down. Most people don't think of that kind of stuff. And so I'm just taking the time to point it out. Do your research, figure out what you got. Your life is going to be so much easier if you figure out what kind of water you have, and then make your selections based on your water type. That is, you want success, right? Everyone wants success. Do it the easy way first. Once you get some stuff under your belt and you feel comfortable doing harder stuff, I mean, for me, I just prefer to keep it simple because I work out of town a lot of times and I'm gone and I'm breeding and farming plants, and look at that. The Detritus worm right there. Completely harmless, just part of the natural fauna in the tank. But yeah, just keep it, do yourself a favor. Keep it easy. Figure out what your water type is, and then research. If you have hard water, do some research. I gave some examples here because that's what I have and that's what I know. There's lots and lots of different kinds of water types. Well, generally hard and soft. But then anything in between, and that's where it gets kind of dicey. I mean, if you're in the middle, it's easier to keep stuff on both sides of the spectrum. But for me, I'm on the hard side with my Indiana limestone water. And so that's why I have all plants and critters that can tolerate or thrive in hard water. Just trying to get a good shot of all the bristlenose plecos. But all the adults go hiding. And they're all real timid. So, and it smells like hard water too. As you can see. So, I like snails. Snails are good. But if you're running a natural planted tank, snails are good. I take some out a lot. That's my own fault because I'm breeding all these shrimps and guppies and plecos, and so I put in excess amounts of food, so I have excess amounts of snails. Again, if you see any shrimps or plants or anything that you found that you would like to get your hands on, check out my website, markshellyaquatics.com. Make it easy on yourself. Keep stuff that goes with your water type. Thank you guys for watching. Bye.